Solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. In the last video, our last example was x minus 1 squared minus 10 is equal to 0. And we said that if we had expanded the brackets and collected the terms, it came up as x squared minus 2x minus 9 equals 0. And whenever we used our sum and product, the sum was minus 2, the product was minus 9, and there were no such numbers to start with. Now, we were able to use a different format to get the solutions. So we put x minus 1 squared equal to 10. We took the square root of both sides to get x minus 1 equal plus or minus the square root of 10. And then x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 10. But to get from our x squared minus 2x minus 9 back into this form of x minus 1 squared minus 10 equals 0 is a very difficult process. But there's another way in which we could solve these, and that's by using the quadratic formula, which is this nasty looking thing here. So x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where the a, the b, and the c are coming from our general equation of a quadratic ax squared plus bx plus c. So a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of the x, and c is the number term. And if we substitute these values into the quadratic formula, we should get our two solutions. So let's look at that now. So if we look to this x squared minus 2x minus 9 equals 0, we have that a, so the coefficient of x squared is equal to 1. The coefficient of x is minus 2, and the number term is minus 9. And if we substitute those into the quadratic formula, we get x equals minus b, which is going to be positive 2, plus or minus the square root of minus 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times minus 9 over 2 times 1. So x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of, so minus 2 squared is 4. 4 times 1 times minus 9 is minus 36. The minus and the minus make a plus 36. So we get 4 plus 36, which is 40. So it's plus or minus the square root of 40 over 2. And if you put that into your calculator, it will work out to be 1 plus or minus the square root of 10, which is the same as what we had. If we didn't want to use a calculator, we could use surds to simplify the square root of 40, but we'll not show that here. So example A, x squared plus 8x plus 11 equals 0. Now it's always good practice here to try the sum and product method. So sum is 8, product is 11, but there's no such numbers that will multiply to 11 and add to 8, so then we need to use the quadratic formula. So in that, a will equal 1, so the coefficient of x squared is 1, b is going to be 8, and c is 11. The quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So substituting the values in, b is 8, so minus b is going to be minus 8, plus or minus 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 11, and that's the square root of those, divided by 2 times 1. So x equals minus 8 plus or minus the square root of 20, and I've just used my calculator to work that out, so I've done 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 11 over 2. X then will equal minus 8 plus the square root of 20 divided by 2, or minus 8 minus the square root of 20 over 2. So putting those into your calculator separately, we get x values of minus 1.76 or minus 6.24 to 2 decimal places. Example B, what we'll notice is the quadratic equation is not equal to 0. So similar with factorizing, we must have equations equal to 0. So we'll have x squared minus 5x minus 12 equals 0. Again, we should always try sum and product because it's so much easier. So sum is minus 5, product is minus 12. And again, there's no numbers that will multiply together to give minus 12 and add to give 5. So we need to use the quadratic formula. So a is equal to 1 because we've got 1x squared. B is going to equal negative 5. And c equals negative 12. The quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So substituting in our values, we get x equals positive 5. So because it's minus b and b was equal to minus 5, minus b must equal positive 5. And then we're plus or minus the square root of minus 5 squared. Now we need to make sure we put the minus 5 in a bracket so that we are squaring negative 5 and not just multiplying the square of 5 by a minus sign. So it's always in brackets. Minus 4 times 1 times minus 12 all over 2 times 1. So x will equal 5 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 2. So x equals 5 plus the square root of 73 over 2, or 5 minus the square root of 73 over 2. Put that into your calculator, we get answers of 6.77 or minus 1.77, and both of those are correct, 2 decimal places. If you weren't sure where the 73 comes from, the square of minus 5 is 25, and then minus 4 times 1 times minus 12 is plus 48, and then 25 plus 48 is 73. Example C, 2x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals 0, so the equation equals 0, which is good. We need to check the sum and product. Sum is 6, the product is minus 14 because we're multiplying the minus 7 and the 2. There's no numbers that will multiply together to give minus 14 and add to give 6, so we need to use the quadratic formula. So we'll identify A, B and C first of all. A is going to equal 2, B equals 6 and C equals negative 7. So the quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So substituting in our values, we get x equals minus 6. So if b is 6, minus b is minus 6. Plus or minus 6 squared minus 4 times 2 times minus 7. And it's the square root of that over 2 times 2. So x equals minus 6 plus or minus the square root of 92 all over 4. The 92, where that's coming from, 6 squared is 36. 4 times 2 times minus 7 is 56. Because there's the 2 minuses, that's going to make a positive 56. So 56 and 36 is 92. We then have the x will equal minus 6 plus the square root of 92 over 4, or minus 6 minus the square root of 92 over 4. So that's going to equal 0.90 or minus 3.90 to 2 decimal places. Example D, we've got an equation that's 0 equals 2 plus 8x minus 3x squared. And what we're going to do here, first of all, is move everything to the other side so that we have a positive x squared, and that makes life so much easier. So 3x squared minus 8x minus 2 is equal to 0. First thing we should always try is sum and product. Sum is minus 8. Product is minus 6. So we've multiplied minus 2 and 3. But there's not any numbers that add to minus 8 and multiply to minus 6. So we've got to use the quadratic formula. So in that, A equals 3, B equals minus 8, C equals minus 2. The quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Substituting in our values, we get x equals 8. So b is negative 8, minus b will be positive 8, plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared. We put that in a bracket. Minus 4 times 3 times minus 2, all over 2 times 3. So x will equal 8 plus or minus the square root of 88. So that 88 is coming from negative 8 squared is positive 64. Negative 4 times 3 times negative 2 is 24. So 24 plus 64 is 88. And that's divided by 6. So x equals 8 plus the square root of 88 over 6, or 8 minus the square root of 88 over 6. So putting those into the calculator, we get 2.90 or minus 0.23 to 2 decimal places. Example E, doesn't this look nasty? We've got a bracket squared, minus 10 equals 2 terms being multiplied together again. And the first thing we need to do here is expand all the brackets and then make the equation equal 0. So x plus 1 squared, that means x plus 1 multiplied by x plus 1, minus 10 equals, we can expand the 2x in, so 2x multiplied by x, and 2x multiplied by minus 2 gives us 2x squared minus 4x. If we expand the brackets here, the double brackets, using FOIL, so the first, the outer, the inner, and the last, we get x squared plus x plus 1, take away 10, equals 2x squared minus 4x. Collecting the terms on the left-hand side, we get x squared plus 2x minus 9 equals 2x squared minus 4x. So what we need to do now is bring all the terms to one side. The right-hand side has 2x squareds, the left-hand side only has 1x squared, so it's easier if we move the left-hand side terms to the right-hand side. And if we do that, we will get 0 equals 2x squared take away an x squared, so that's x squared, minus 4x, and then bring the plus 2x as minus 2x, so that's going to be minus 6x. Bring the minus 9 over, it becomes a plus 9. So now our quadratic equation is equal to 0. We need to try and solve this. So the first method we try is sum and product. So the sum is minus 6, the product is 9. And this time, there are two numbers that multiply to 9 and add together to give minus 6. And that's minus 3 and minus 3. So the two minuses multiply together to give a positive, and take away 3 from negative 3, you get negative 6. So we can go straight to the brackets because it's single x squared. So our brackets are going to be x as the first term, and then a minus 3 as the other terms in each bracket. That's going to equal 0. So then what we have is that x minus 3 equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0. If we solve the first one, we get x equals 3. Solving the second one, we get x equals 3. So therefore, we've only one solution this time of x is equal to 3. Example F, we've got 10x equals 1 plus 3 over x. So in this equation, what we should do is, if we bring the 1 over to the left-hand side, so it's always good practice in an equation involving a fraction to have the fraction on its own first of all. So then we would have 10x take away 1 equals 3 over x. And then whenever we've got the fraction equal to something else, if we multiply up by the denominator, so if we multiply through by x, we'll get x multiplied by 10x minus 1 equals 3. We can expand the bracket to get 10x squared minus x equals 3. Making the equation equal to 0, you get 10x squared minus x minus 3 is equal to 0. I have to try and solve this. So we've made the equation equal to 0, which is a must with quadratics. Then we'll try sum and product. So the sum is minus 1. The product, which is 10 multiplied by minus 3, is minus 30. And we've actually got two numbers that multiply to minus 30 and add to minus 1. And that's negative 6 and 5. So by doing that check, we've saved ourselves a lot of work and used the quadratic formula. So 4 terms, 10x squared, we replace the minus x with minus 6 and 5. So it's minus 6x plus 5x minus 3. Split them into their pairs and do simple factorising. So what's common between 10x squared and minus 6x? That's a 2x. And we'll have 5x minus 3. Repeat the bracket. And we need to multiply 5x minus 3 by plus 1 to get back to 5x minus 3. So our two brackets then are 2x plus 1 and 5x minus 3 is equal to 0, meaning that 2x plus 1 equals 0, or 5x minus 3 equals 0. For 2x plus 1, take the 1 over, we get 2x equals minus 1, so x equals minus a half. For 5x minus 3 equal to 0, take the minus 3 over, we get 5x equals 3, so x equals 3/5, meaning that our answers are x equals minus a half and 3/5.